What if one of the best exercises for your upper body was just hanging around? Sounds easy, right? Well, I found out the hard way that hanging from a bar every day for 30 days is no joke. In fact, this simple challenge nearly had me giving up on day 3. But spoiler alert, by day 30, I was seeing crazy results. From gorilla-like grip strength to shoulders that felt brand new. Grab a bar and maybe some popcorn, because today I'm sharing how a month of dead hangs transformed my body and taught me a few hilarious lessons along the way. I consider myself pretty fit. I've spent years doing calisthenics and weightlifting, so I walked into this challenge with confidence. How hard could it be to just hang from a pull-up bar? Well, day 1 punched that confidence in the face. I jumped up to the bar, arms fully extended, and last a whopping 30 seconds if that. My forearms caught fire, my shoulders started screaming, and my hands nearly slipped off from the sweat. Turns out, hanging your full body weight is a brutal wake-up call for the upper body, even for a seasoned athlete like me. By day 2, reality set in. This was going to hurt. I woke up with sore lats, tight shoulders, and hands that felt like sandpaper. Not gonna lie, I briefly questioned my life choices while staring at the bar that morning. But I was committed, or maybe just too stubborn to quit on day 2. So I chalked up my raw palms, no way I was using gloves on day 2, I've got my gym pride, and hopped back on for another hang. The first week was all about pain and clumsy experimentation. My biggest enemy? Gravity, obviously. Second biggest? My own grip. It was humbling to discover that despite all my weightlifting, my grip endurance was far from legendary. Fun fact, grip strength is actually a big deal. Studies show it links to overall strength and even longevity. So at least I could tell myself this torture might help me live longer. Each day I tried to hang a little longer, but it was a struggle. My calluses were forming, my shoulders popped and cracked, and every set of seconds beyond the last record felt like an eternity. I'd find myself swinging slightly and clenching every muscle just to hold on. Don't swing, engage your core, I reminded myself, trying to stay steady and not look like a flailing piñata. By the end of week 1, I managed to hang for about 45 seconds straight, an improvement, but my arms felt about 2 inches longer from all the stretching. At least my spine was getting a nice decompression from this. I was sore, I was tired, but I was also determined. I joked to my friends that I was basically becoming a human sloth. Hanging around is my new hobby. They laughed, I laughed, but my flushed face and trembling arms told the real story of that first brutal week. After surviving the first week, I knew I needed to work smarter, not just harder. I took a step back while shaking out my very sore arms and analyzed my mistakes. First off, my technique needed tweaking. I learned that on a dead hang, you shouldn't shrug your shoulders up to your ears. That was causing some pinching. Instead, I started lightly engaging my shoulder blades, pulling them down and back just a bit to keep my shoulders stable. This small tweak instantly made hanging feel better on my joints. Lesson learned, if you're going to just hang, do it right. I also admitted defeat on the gloves versus chalk debate. By day 8, my pride gave way to practicality. I dug out a pair of weightlifting gloves because my blistered palms could not handle another day of direct bar torture. Yes, hardcore calisthenics folks, go ahead and roast me, but my calluses thanked me. With gloves on, I could focus on hanging longer instead of hopping off when my skin was on fire. Between the improved grip from the gloves and my refined shoulder positioning, I started seeing progress again. This week, I also got scientific with my approach. Rather than one max effort hang each day, which was totally frying my forearms, I tried doing multiple shorter hangs spread through the day. For example, I'd hang for 3 sets of 30 seconds in the morning, then another few sets later on. I remembered hearing about a famous 7-minute hanging challenge, where people accumulate 7 minutes total hang time a day. 7 minutes sounded insane given my current state, but breaking the time into sets helped. Surprisingly, this made a big difference. I was training my endurance without going to complete failure each time. By the midpoint of week 2, I hit a mini milestone, 1 full minute hang. 1 minute! I felt like I unlocked an achievement badge in a video game. My excitement was through the roof. Of course, the last 10 seconds of that minute had me shaking like a leaf, eyes closed, just willing myself not to let go. But I did it. That night, I rewarded myself with an extra scoop of protein ice cream, earned every gooey bite. I also started noticing some changes in my daily life. Oddly, my posture was improving. I caught myself standing taller, shoulders back. Maybe thanks to all the core and back engagement during hangs. I wasn't intentionally doing posture exercises, but dead hangs were apparently sneaking in some posture therapy for me. Even at my desk, I felt less like a hunchback. My shoulders rolled back more naturally. Could hanging from a bar undo years of slouching? Possibly yes. This week, the dead hang turned from daily torture into something I almost enjoyed. By now, my body had adapted quite a bit. My forearms and hands were definitely stronger and more resilient. I could hang longer before that burning sensation kicked in. In fact, recent research on rock climbers who did hanging training for 4 weeks showed improved grip strength and endurance, and I was literally feeling that result in real time. My grip endurance was night and day compared to day one. Jar lids and stubborn pickle jars in my kitchen were now trembling before my mighty grip. No pickle jar is safe in my household anymore. With new confidence, I started adding fun twists to the challenge. One day, around day 18, I attempted a one-arm hang, because why not test my limits? Let's just say I immediately appreciated the two-arm version more. I managed about 5 seconds on one arm before my brain screamed, nope. Still, it was a cool test, and it gave me a benchmark for future improvement. I learned that a good rule of thumb is being able to hang two-handed for about 2 minutes before even thinking you can really handle one-arm hangs. So my 1 minute-ish hang was still rookie numbers in the one-arm world. Back to two arms I went. I'm not Spider-Man yet. By this point, I was consistently racking up about 90 seconds per hang in my best attempts and doing multiple sets daily. But it wasn't all sunshine. Around day 20, I noticed my forearms were getting extremely tight and aching even when I wasn't hanging. I realized I'd been working my grip finger flexors a ton, but neglecting the opposite muscles. Oops. To fix this, I introduced a weird little finger extension exercise each day. I stuck my fingers inside a looped sock, bear with me here, and opened my hand against the resistance of the sock's elastic. It looked ridiculous, like I was doing sock puppetry with invisible puppets, but it worked. Doing 20 reps of those after each hang session really relieved the forearm tension and balanced out all the gripping. Mistake analyzed and corrected. If you're going to cling to a bar daily, don't forget to stretch and work the opposite muscles. My forearms were much happier once I added this little routine, and my family got a kick out of my sock puppet exercises. Week 3 also brought an interesting mental shift. What used to be agony hanging for 30 seconds had become almost meditative. I started zoning out a bit during longer hangs, focusing on my breath, even clearing my mind as I dangled there. There's something oddly calming about hanging in midair once the pain subsides. You're forced to breathe and endure. In fact, hanging has a mental aspect. A classic study from way back in 1975 found that people who hung from a bar daily for weeks increased not just their endurance, but also their tolerance to discomfort. I believe it. By week 3, I was definitely getting mentally tougher. I could embrace the burn and stay calm as the seconds ticked by. This was turning into willpower training as much as physical training. I'd challenge myself with little mind games. Just 10 seconds more. Okay, 10 more after that. You got this. Before I knew it, I could push past the urge to drop. This new grit started translating outside the challenge too. After surviving a brutal hang, the minor stresses of daily life felt a bit lighter. Who knew dangling like a bat would be a lesson in Zen? The final week arrived and I was pumped. All the hard work, sweat, and possibly a few tears, manly tears I swear, were about to pay off. At this point, hanging from the bar had become habitual. My body almost craved that stretch and strain each day. My shoulders felt amazingly loose and pain-free. Remember those early pops and cracks? Gone. In fact, I'd had a nagging shoulder ache from an old gym injury that practically vanished after weeks of hanging. It suddenly made sense why physical therapists recommend hanging to rehab shoulders. It literally opens up the shoulder joints and strengthens the supporting muscles. I was living proof of that advice. My shoulder mobility was better than it's been in years. I could reach overhead or behind my back with less stiffness. Every morning when I'd hang, I'd feel and even hear a satisfying little ah as my spine and shoulders stretched out. Spinal decompression, improved flexibility, happier shoulders, check, check, and check. By day 28, I decided to go for the ultimate test on day 30, a max time hang. All out, leave nothing in the tank. I wanted to see how far I'd come from that shaky 30-second hang on day 1. I spent the last few days training smart, not overdoing it, staying limber, and psyching myself up for the final boss battle, aka the 30-day hang-off. Day 30. I warmed up my shoulders and wrists, thoroughly learned my lesson about warm-ups and safety. Gotta protect those joints. I dusted my hands with chalk, gloves off for the grand finale. I wanted maximum feel on the bar. I took a deep breath and I launched up to the bar for one last hang. The first minute flew by relatively easily, a far cry from the agony of week 1. At around 90 seconds, I entered new territory. Every muscle from my fingers to my lats was quivering. I could feel my heart pounding, sweat trickling down my forearms. Hold on, I told myself, gritting my teeth. I hit my previous record around 1 minute and 30 seconds and refused to drop. Those last 30 seconds were pure mental warfare. My forearms were screaming, my mind was screaming, but I stared at a spot on the wall and went to my happy place, somewhere between determination and delirium. And then, 2 minutes. I hit the 2-minute mark and finally let myself drop down, landing in a heap on the floor. 2 whole minutes of hanging. I couldn't help but let out a victory whoop and maybe do a little wobbly-legged happy dance. I had literally doubled my hang time from the start of this journey. For context, hanging for 2 minutes is a benchmark many experts consider a gold standard for excellent grip endurance, so I was beyond stoked. In 30 days, I went from struggling at 30 seconds to joining the 2-minute club. Not to mention, I felt strong. I mean, really strong in a functional all-around way. Now that I've survived 30 days of dead hangs, here's what I gained. And the results honestly blew me away. Grip of steel. My grip strength skyrocketed. Everyday tasks like carrying groceries felt easier. And grip strength is actually linked to better overall health. So I didn't just improve my pull-ups, I might have added years to my life. Shoulder health and mobility. My shoulders are looser, stronger, and pain-free. Dead hangs decompress the joint and strengthen stabilizers, which killed the stiffness I used to feel. Old aches? Gone. Better posture and spine. Hanging stretched out my spine and fixed my desk hunch. I literally stand taller now, and people even commented I look more confident. Upper body and core strength. My lats, traps, and core all worked overtime to keep me stable. Result? More pull-ups, better pulling power, and a stronger upper body overall. Flexibility. My chest, shoulders, and forearms all loosened up. Mental toughness. Hanging on when I wanted to drop built real grit. By day 30, my pain tolerance, in training and in life, went way up. It became a kind of mindfulness training. Consistency. The daily habit itself. Just 1 minute a day taught me how much consistency compounds. Even now, I've kept it in my routine. I actually look forward to my daily hang. Looking back, this 30-day dead hang challenge was one of the simplest but most rewarding things I've done. It cost nothing, took just minutes a day, and gave me better strength, mobility, posture, and even a tougher mindset. If you try it, start slow. Hangs look easy, but they can be tough on your shoulders and wrists. Begin with 10 to 20 seconds, use chalk or gloves, and build up over time. In the end, I highly recommend it. Just a bar and your body weight can unlock surprising benefits and some bragging rights. I'm hooked on hanging now, and who knows, maybe a one-arm or weighted hang is next. Sometimes the simplest exercises bring the biggest results, so hang in there, literally. If you want to learn the differences between hypertrophy and strength training, make sure to watch the next video.